you ready to go?
Ready.
All right, let's do it. Let's roll. Here we go. 3, 2, and 1. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool, and we got a special guest in the Zoom rooms here with us.
the Zoom room.
We got Jason Van Camp on the show with us.
Right, man.
All right.
Happy to have Jason on.
Thanks for having me on the show in the Zoom room house, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We even got the fake audience, everything, man. It's like they're all 6 feet away, so don't worry about it.
That's right. That's right. We've got a little social distancing going on there. So
yeah,
I can put a fake virtual background on this thing too, if you guys want.
Oh yeah,
I'm in my office.
Yeah, there you go.
So right. Jason's going to be talking about his book today on the show. He's got one out called Deliberate Discomfort: How U.S. Special Forces Overcome Fear, Dare to Win by Getting Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. That's going to be interesting. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So this book just came out in February. We're going to be talking about that. Give you a little background about Jason. He is a Virginia native. He's a highly decorated Green Beret Special Ops Commander, and this book has hit the Amazon bestseller list. So we're happy to have you on, man, and share a little bit about your background and a little bit about the book today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is a lot of fun. Deliberate Discomfort, we're really proud of it. It launched on February 18th, and to date, we've sold 17,000 copies.
Nice.
Wow.
So pretty stoked on that. Amazon #1 bestseller, Porch Light bestseller. We were put in for a couple of awards. Reviews are great. But that damn elusive, New York Times bestseller, that was that's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
We're trying to get that one, so I don't know how that's going to work. If anyone has inside information about that, please let me know. But my background, like you said, I'm from Virginia.
Yeah.
West Point guy. I served a mission to St. Petersburg, Russia for my church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon church. And then served my first duty station in Korea, became a Ranger, went Special Forces, deployed a couple times, 3 times to the Middle East and 1 time to Africa. And let's see what else. Got my MBA at BYU.
Nice.
And I've got a young family, a 3-year-old daughter and a 9-month-old son. And I live right now in the suburbs of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Awesome.
Wow. Well, let's, we've got some good stuff. I'm looking at the table of contents here, and there's some pretty cool titles and subtitles and stuff like that. So I don't want to give too much away, but before we do that, before we jump into the book and a little bit more about Jason, we got some beer to talk about. And
some beverages.
Beverages. And
yeah.
I picked one because I thought I read in the background, Jason, that you were Ranger. So beer I picked today has Ranger. So it's Ranger Creek Brewery. So I was like, okay, that's a good one. That's a sign. So that's what I'm going to go with. And plus I like their packaging and stuff. Like we love good packaging. So it's a Ranger Creek, Texas bourbon barrel Imperial Coffee Ale.
Oh,
a lot going on.
Coffee and a little bourbon.
Yeah. So it's the copy on the back of it. It says the Imperial Coffee Ale combines all the necessities in life: coffee, beer, and bourbon.
Wow.
So there you go. It's all in one box. And I love the black and white. And then the can also is that very just clean.
Oh yeah.
Black and white.
That is cool. That is very uniquely Texan,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's from San Antonio.
It's a mouthful, both.
It looks like it would come from San Antonio.
It's
take a swig and let us know how it tastes, man. It could be
I'm gonna
the greatest inventions known to man, or it could be.
Yeah, it could be awful. Like we've had a few of those on here as well. So, you don't usually see the coffee and the bourbon barrel stuff, in an ale, but this is the lighter, ale. So, and it says it's best at 55 degrees. So I think I've got it about right.
What's the ABV on that?
11.6.
11.6.
I've been
All
hitting
right.
that number pretty steadily the last
Mhm.
4 or 5
Pretty strong.
episodes. So
Sean likes to come strong on, when we bring beers, he likes to come really strong. I
Yeah.
got lately, I've been kind of a lightweight, but I tell you what, let's do this. Jason, you introduce your beverage. We'll kind of sandwich yours in between the two stronger ones.
Yeah, mine is the least impressive. So as I said, I'm a Mormon guy, so I don't drink alcohol, but I brought an Aquafina water bottle,
there you go.
to enjoy, at 55 degrees with you guys
Heck yeah.
and just have a good time with y'all.
Dude, I bet you still like run 5 miles a day or something like that, don't you?
I push my double stroller with my kids in it.
5 miles a
Did
day.
it yesterday for 45 minutes. Was
Yeah.
that 5 miles or was it maybe a mile? Probably 3 miles,
3
yesterday.
miles.
Yeah.
And, I hit up the stair climber this morning for 30 minutes and then I worked out for an hour. So I try to stay fit, man.
Yeah. It's tough
you
with
know.
kids, man. I know the struggle.
You know the deal.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, I've got a kind of a new one, but it's been on before, but this one's a Dragon's Milk, Sean.
Nice.
It's another bourbon barrel, but this one is their new Dragon's Milk White. So the difference between this is a new version. I guess this is a little bit lighter. I've read their website and it says it's a full flavored yet lighter stout. And so I guess they introduced this one in the warmer months, not as heavy.
Okay. All right.
So
We'll go with that.
it's only 6%, whereas I think a typical Dragon's Milk is, I think, around 11. It's 11%.
So I like the we kind of matched the cans.
Yeah,
though.
we did,
I mean,
didn't we?
Yeah. So that was good. Unplanned. That's good.
Totally unplanned. So I'm
all right, pour that up and then we'll yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So
right.
Cheers, gentlemen. Boy, I poured that one thick, didn't I?
Wow, that is that's a head there. Good luck getting through that.
Jason, you can have a swig of that water, man. And
I just did, just to feel like I'm part of the team. Like, come on, guys. Like the little brother following behind you guys.
That's right.
All right, Sean, we got to rate our beers. What is your impression?
It's good, man. It's got that. It's pretty strong right up front. Kind of hits you with a lot of vanilla, actually, which I've read that somewhere on the can that there's a lot of vanilla. I don't taste the coffee.
Okay.
Unless it's like vanilla, like really strong, but like Weigel's vanilla cappuccino comes out of the machine, back there in Knoxville. It's like all powdered sugar, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So it's got a strong vanilla, but it's good. It's one of those, it's going to have to sit open a little bit, I think, to really let the flavor come out.
Right.
But yeah, it's good. It's good. Definitely got that dessert kind of feel to it.
Yeah. Good. Well, this one's great too. Not as good as the full version of Dragon's Milk, but it's kind of a lighter version. A little too sweet though for me on the front end. So
yeah, this one's pretty sweet too. So
yeah,
must be that kind of day. All righty.
Well, cool. Let's get into some intentional persuasion, and we're going to talk about your book, Jason. But before we get into, let's get a little background, because we kind of gave you, I read kind of an intro there, but I would like to find out, our audience would like to find out a little more about your background. How much time do you spend in the special operations forces and the military before you got out and started your business?
Yeah, I started in 2004 is when I went through the Q course, and then finished in 2006. And I medically retired in 2015.
Okay.
And so most of my time was spent at 10th Special Forces Group in Fort Carson, Colorado. And after my last JSET, Joint Combined Exchange Training kind of operation to Mali, Africa, I got really sick. We were out literally in the middle of the jungle, essentially We had indige fighters that were wearing loincloths and chucking spears, and we were trying to fight off Tuareg rebels. And with one of the military units there, we were showing construct a patrol base and pull security and things like that. And one night I just got really sick and got medevac back to the embassy in Bamako at the capital. Fought
Mhm.
through it, went back to the team, came back home to the States, and had a seizure disorder out of the blue. Like never had one before in my life, no family history, and it just continued to progress over the next 4 years essentially, and eventually I got moved up as an officer. You kind of get moved up into a staff position and so forth, and I was in a staff position, and I had a seizure at work behind my desk. And up until that point, the doctors were trying to keep it on the down low to see if they could, help me out and work through this so I could kind of return to duty and everything. And once this happened at work, my bosses were like, "Hey man, like, what's going on? Like, you can't be having seizures. Like, how did you
Sure.
even get in?" And so I had to explain the whole thing. And they're like, "Bro, you can't shoot, you can't jump, you can't deploy, you can't even drive your car."
Mm.
And so I had to have my dad come out. I was single at the time. So I bothered my dad to come out and drive me to work every day. And then a few years of that, and they finally um, told me to get out, get the hell
Right.
out. They retired me. And then I said, well, now what am I going to do? And
Mhm.
so I started Mission 60, my for-profit leadership development company, kind of out of the blue while I was getting my MBA. And then from there, I started my nonprofit Warrior Rising, which helps veterans and their immediate family members start or accelerate their own businesses. And we're really proud of that too. So, two successful businesses, nonprofit, for profit, and that's my background, brother.
Awesome. I'm just
Cool.
curious. Do you know? I've got a friend, and I've interviewed him on a past podcast before. You know a guy named Brian Fleming?
That name sounds familiar. I don't think I know him though.
He's he's a former veteran, and he does a lot of speaking. He's on the speaking tour, but he's a former guy. I think he survived a suicide bombing back in I think it was like back in 2000. I want to say 2006, 2005, 2006, something like that. So he talks a lot about overcoming that because he had an explosive ordnance, I guess, or a suicide bomber blew up right next to him, and he was in the hospital for quite a while, overcoming that. But I need to connect you guys because I think you guys would have that would be a nice crossover.
Sure, I'd love to. I love meeting with and talking with like-minded individuals. For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, for our listeners, one of the reasons we had you come on, Jason, was, we talk a lot about persuasion and influence and marketing, and we're always talking about persuading other people or, that kind of stuff. But one of the, I think, most overlooked things is being able to persuade and influence and lead yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people overlook that quality because if you do that really well, a lot of other people will fall in and follow you because you are leading yourself. Like that, to me,
Correct.
that's the first step of leadership. You got to be able to lead yourself. So when Jonathan told me about the book Deliberate Discomfort, how in the subtitle, how U.S. Special Operations Forces overcome fear, dare to win by getting uncomfortable, or by getting comfortable being uncomfortable. There we go.
Mhm.
So I thought that'll be fun. Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, like, why did you write the book? Like, where did the book come from? What had you sit down and write? Because I know writing a book is no easy task. So how'd that come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I loved every second of writing this book. And to your point earlier, and I couldn't agree with you more. Like if you go to the gym and you hire a personal trainer and the personal trainer is out of shape and you're just like, well, you can't even manage yourself, man. Like
Yeah.
what are you going to teach me,
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Or when you see a motivational speaker who's up on stage and he's like, 150 pounds overweight and he just like looks like hell. He's about to have a heart attack. And you're like, how are you going to help me be a better person? You look like
Right.
dog crap up stage,
Yeah.
And when I first started this company, I went and I tried to seek mentorship. And I think that's something we all should do. And finding the right mentor is very difficult. And as I went through trying to find a good mentor, I kind of found they were all telling me the same thing. They were saying, Jason, I haven't really heard of any company, a leadership development company that you're trying to build that has been successful before they wrote a book or they had material or they had something to give and to sell.
Mhm.
And I thought about it and I thought, well, I don't really I don't feel like I have enough to share right now to write a book. And I don't know what I would write a book about. And I don't want to rush to failure.
Mhm.
And so I kind of pocketed that in the back of my mind. I said, okay, I need to write a book one day, if I really want to be successful at this business. In the meantime, I'm not going to wait around. I'm going to try to get clients. I'm going to try to start this business and succeed. And we did. And our first client luckily was the New York Jets. We just cold called them, got an opportunity to go up and pitch to them. And we won the contract for the entire year. That was our first client.
Lord knows they need some help. So
they still need help, right? They still need help. It was a fun contract. It was Rex Ryan was the head coach at the time. And anyway, so we did that. And a lot of the veterans that I brought to my team, I noticed that they were really inspirational. They're really, really motivational. But a lot of times our clients would ask questions like, that sounds really good. Tell me more. How did you do that? And they really struggled with answering those questions. Like, oh, I just relied on my training, or I don't know, I just did it. You know what I mean? And I noticed that scientists were out there, PhDs, researchers, experts that were kind of the opposite. They didn't have a whole lot of experience or stories to tell, but they had really great explanations. They had a propensity for explaining the so what and the now what really well. And so I thought to myself, if there's some way that I can combine my military guys with these scientists, we could have something really special. And
Sure.
so I did that, and business kind of skyrocketed once I did that. And then I said, okay, well, we need to really hone in on our curriculum. Like, what is it that we're teaching? And at the time, I was writing articles for Inc. magazine with a guy named Chris Desi. And I think I wrote 4 of them over the course of like a 2 or 3 month period. And one of the articles was how to get comfortable being uncomfortable, or 10 ways, maybe 5 ways or 7 ways or whatever to get comfortable being uncomfortable by Green Beret Jason Van Camp. And that article got like 3 times as many views as the other articles that we wrote. And I was surprised and I was shocked. And I said, well, I guess this theme, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, really resonates with folks. And so I took that, I did some market research with our clients, and I found that people love it. And I transitioned our curriculum so that we specifically teach, that message of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And when I was in the process of writing the book, deliberate discomfort was just, a theme, a message, a slogan that really resonated with me and resonated with our clients. And so we took that and ran with it. And I wrote the book along with several of the members of my team. They contributed, and it's been great. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good takeaways there from, getting yourself out there and just, developing your message, through your clients, through writing, like getting exposure on ink, getting out there, being a published writer. Like there's so many different things there we could talk about as far as like, how to get known, how to grow a business, like all kinds of cool stuff there. But I want to get into the book a little bit more.
Sure.
So like, I'm looking at some of the table of contents, and like, it's the commander, the team, the self, the man, the fog of war, the dilemma, the suicide battle, suicide bomber, the final battle, the long walk, the player, the beginning. Like but what I notice about this is under every chapter, you have a couple of people. So you kind of mentioned a little bit of a collaboration with your former team, and tell us about like how the book came together as far as that. Like there's just a lot of people involved in this.
Yeah. So I wrote the book. I'm the author, right? But
Mhm.
I collaborated with everybody on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our curriculum. So kind of how the book works is um, it's a story about me after my Green Beret, reporting to 10 Special Forces Group for the first time, walking into my company commander's office and him kind of giving me his leadership philosophy. And very uncomfortable for me to like, new guy, I'm excited, I'm nervous, I'm anxious. And my company commander tells me, listen, Jason, in order for you to take command of a team in my company, there's a certain attitude, a mindset, a leadership philosophy that you need to understand. In order for you to understand that, I need you to speak with these people in the company, and learn from them, find out what makes them tick, find out what motivates them, and so forth. And so each chapter of the book is me speaking to a different veteran about his experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And then following that conversation, we have a scientist that translates the theme of that chapter into relatable and digestible action items. The so what and the now what. And then I come back in that chapter and I explain, hey, we've been in business for 8 years from a business standpoint. Here's an example of one of our clients. It's always a high profile client taking these lessons and applying them to their own business.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that we constructed the book. And the final chapter, I go back into my company commander's office and I basically tell him, hey, this is what I've learned. And then he introduces me to my team. And that's kind of how the flow
That's
goes.
cool. That's kind
That's
of
a
an
really
interesting, very unique way of putting a book together, especially with the having like a scientific perspective of each of these lessons within these chapters. That's pretty cool. I mean, who came up with that idea to kind of lean on somebody that can provide some of the insight from a scientific standpoint?
That was my idea. That was the whole kind of premise behind Mission 60,
Yeah.
because we had a ceiling with just veterans talking,
Mm-hmm.
motivational, but there was so much more value we could give to a client if we had some science.
Sure.
And what we kind of found was um, people would hire us and veterans would talk and the audience would be jazzed. They'd be excited. But oftentimes, the CEO in the back, the decision maker, the person that hired us, they would be like, listen, how is this changing my bottom line? Like, is this
Sure.
actually like giving me more money, like helping me make more money? Or is this
Right.
just firing guys up for a couple of days?
Yeah. Motivation for like a few
Yeah.
days and then it's back to the norm.
And the scientists, they had an opposite experience. They'd come in and everybody in the audience would be like rolling their eyes, like, oh my God, like, when is this going to stop? Like, please, enough. Like, this is too scientific for me. And the CEO, the decision maker in the back would be like, yes, just listen to this guy. This is exactly what we need. This guy is going to help us make more money. And
Right.
so I'm like, okay, there's a disconnect here.
Sure.
We can take the veteran and his experiences, and then translate that scientifically.
Mm-hmm.
We get the best of both worlds. Everybody's happy. And once we did that, there you go. That's
Yeah.
our secret sauce.
That's really cool. I love the. So I was looking at the first chapter here, and there's a statement that says, I'll just read the first couple lines. It says, I was uncomfortable. There was no denying it, unnerved, stressed, under pressure, whatever you want to call it. First of all, full stop right there. Like, I think that like describes just about everybody every day, right?
Right.
If they're doing anything important, like you feel some level of that all the time,
Mm-hmm.
throughout, pockets of it throughout the day, maybe all day, whether it's raising kids or running a Fortune 500 company, like you just feel that. So I love from a copy standpoint as a copywriter, I love that you open with that. But then the next paragraph is, I was at the crossroads of how the hell did I get here and what will happen next. And I think that is like where so many people get stuck, is they like hit a big goal, like getting a new job or getting a new contract. And like, it's kind of like got the tiger by the tail. Now what? So I can really like resonate with, I'm kind of in that position now. I just got a brand new client, super fast paced, great team to work with. so I'm at the same, like I'm in that exact place right now, which is probably why it resonates. So like, how the hell did I get here? And all right, what will happen next? So tell me why you started of all the things you could have started the book with, why did you start there? Like what was the mindset there and what was going on?
Great question. And I'm really excited for you to read the book. If you like the first paragraph so much, I got to
We
send
can
you
do
guys copies. The book is about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. And so the first line of the book, to me, I was always going to write, I was uncomfortable.
Mm.
That's the first line of the book. And I knew that that was going to be the first line of the book. And in chapter 12, you'll see the first line in chapter 12 is he was comfortable. So it's kind of like the whole process of he started off, which me, I started off, very uncomfortable. And then through my journey, I became comfortable and I got to a good spot. And so I really wanted to articulate like how uncomfortable I was in a new area, trying to impress everyone, trying to, meeting my new boss the first time. I'm going to be in command of a team. I'm going to combat, like leading this team into combat, like all this pressure, all this fear, all this anxiety, all this stress, all this stuff makes you uncomfortable. But it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Discomfort is good and it's not a negative thing. And that's what most people don't understand. You have to choose hard things or hard things will choose you. So that's what I believe. And through this book, Deliberate Discomfort, I think you'll learn that, the mentality is if it ain't broke, break it.
Yeah.
And build something better.
Right.
I love that.
You've got you've got actually quite a few gripping stories in this book. Some accounts of guys that are grabbing enemy grenades. One dude's tackling a suicide bomber. Can you share a couple of stories specifically on a couple of those chapters related to those? I mean, that's pretty intense moments there. And what are some lessons that people can take from that?
Oh my gosh, man. I could go through all these stories. I'll tell a couple. I'll tell Flo and Leroy's, and then I want to tell a few more.
All right.
Flo and Leroy are on the Mission 60 team. Flo Groberg, Leroy Petrie, both Medal of Honor recipients. Great friends of mine, phenomenal human beings. I mean, just good people. And Leroy, he was in Afghanistan. They went on a mission to capture a high-value target. Ended up coming into contact with the Taliban fighters, and they were in a compound and everything. And Leroy was shot through both of his legs twice. Continued running, with his guys. Chose deliberate discomfort. He found himself positioned behind a chicken coop with Taliban fighters on the other side in a firefight. And a pineapple grenade was thrown into his sort of trench in his location. And to save the guys around him, Leroy picked up the grenade and threw it. It exploded, blew his arm off. He took a tourniquet off of his kit with his left arm, stopped the bleeding on his right arm, picked up his weapon with his left arm, continued fighting. The two Rangers that were with him were both kind of incapacitated, at the time of the grenade. And he defeated the Taliban and then got his guys to safety and earned the Medal of Honor for that. And Flo Groberg, he was also in Afghanistan, and he was in a formation where he was personal security detachment commander for a colonel, and he saw a suicide bomber running up to the location, and he took action, tackled the bomber, got into a hand-to-hand, combat with the guy, and one thing led to the other. The fighter detonated on Flo, and kind of weird how it works. It kind of launched Flo away and really messed him up, his legs and everything, especially his calf. But he survived, and some of the people around him did not survive, unfortunately. But Flo took it upon himself to protect them and tackle the suicide bomber. And gosh, like chapter 2, we got Steve. He's a Green Beret, Navy SEAL, and an Army Ranger. So he talks about his experiences in all three. Who's the best? I'll
Yeah.
leave it up to you guys to read the book to find out.
Yeah.
Um, Jeff Adams talks about in chapter 4, talks about his experiences on his first mission ever to clear 26 miles of ridgeline and with Kurdish Peshmerga, and it's really on all the mountain to pull 550 cord, the insides of 550 cord out to like stop the bleeding on femoral arteries and such, and it's really really impactful. Chapter 5 with Joe Cerna, he's a Green Beret, is RG-31 flipped over into an aqueduct in Afghanistan, and electricity went out, so they couldn't open the doors. And slowly, water started rising in the RG-31 until it was completely submerged. And Joe somehow, although he passed out, he survived after 45 minutes, but everybody else in the vehicle died. And it talks very intimately about what was going through his mind minute by minute as he was stuck in this RG-31 vehicle. Dan Quinn, another guy who was a Green Beret Detachment Commander in Afghanistan, and he found out that, one day a woman came to his compound in tears, begging to talk to the Green Beret commander, and they let her in, and she said her 10-year-old son was kidnapped by the top Afghan commander in the area, essentially Dan's counterpart, and was being used as a child sex slave. The Afghans have bakabazi over there, which is dancing boys. So it's kind of a badge of honor to rape young boys and so forth. And Dan took it in his own hands to send a message to this Afghan commander, and he was relieved of his command for doing that. So he talks about that experience.
Oh, wow.
Joey Jones, he's a Fox News analyst right now, Marine. He stepped on an IED, blew both of his legs off. Talks very intimately about that whole experience. Really cool chapter. And then Nate Boyer is one of my closest friends. We went through the Q course together. He doesn't talk any war stories in this one, but he talks a lot about our experiences together, Nate and I.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final chapter kind of ties it all in together and talks about what we learned and
Sure.
process of deliberate discomfort. So that's a pretty long explanation, but you asked me for stories, man. And if you ask me for stories, I can't
Those
stop.
are great.
Man. Yeah. I'd say, as a ranger, I wasn't a ranger when I was in the military, but I'm a little bit familiar with like the Q course and what y'all did there, but a lot of our listeners aren't. And I think, that's the training ground for deliberate discomfort, right? I mean, that's where you learn to get comfortable with discomfort. I mean, that's one of the places, right? That's kind of the purpose of that course. I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me, but can you just like kind of tell the audience like what's involved in Q course and how they train you to get comfortable with discomfort?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the Q course, when I was there, it was 6 phases. And so the first phase was selection, and it was about a month. And the selection phase was my favorite course I've ever taken in the military, because the instructors there, usually you go to an Army course, military course, there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of running around, there's a lot of, like chaos and, in your face sort of thing. It was not like that at all. It was a gentleman's course. They put a big whiteboard on the rocks, essentially in between the barracks, and an instructor will go out and just write, "Hey, this is where we need you to be. This is the uniform. This is what we need you to bring at this time," and they don't tell you they're going out there. They just go out there and write it. And so you have to, be situationally aware of when somebody goes out there, because they could be like, "Hey, in 5 minutes, we need you to be at this location." And so you show up, and you're like, "Well, what's going on?" And they just say, "Hey, do the best you can. You'll be timed. Everything you say or do, every act will be measured, and we'll let you know how you did." And they're like, "Go." And sometimes you show up and you're like, "Well, I guess we're running." And you start running, and you don't know if it's 2 miles or 8 miles. You don't have no idea. You just know that you have to run as fast as you can, and they do the same thing with rucking. So you take a rucksack on, you do that. do a lot of log PT, team building exercises that are, conditioned to break you off and to, find your true leadership qualities and characteristics. And then the big thing at selection is they have a star land navigation course. So you have to find, I think it was 4 points. Yeah, 4 points in 12 hours. 12 hours, you have to find 4 points. And sometimes you go like 26 miles of just walking in the woods with a map and a compass and a pace count is really all you have. And that's pretty tough. The next phase is the small unit tactics phase. So you learn a lot of what you did at Ranger School, ambush raids, that sort of thing, moving as a team. Phase 3 is the MOS course. I was an 18 Alpha, so it was the officers course. It was a little longer, classroom type stuff for about a year or so. And then the next phase is phase 4, Robin Sage, which is an exercise in North Carolina where they hire economically distressed civilians in towns to role play as though they're in a fictional country called Pineland. And they have enemy forces there, friendly forces there, and essentially drop you off, and you have to negotiate and maneuver and inspire the locals to rise up in rebellion against the tyrannical government, which is pretty amazing. Phase 5 is language school. My language was Russian, and I already spoke a 3-3 because I lived in Russia for 2 years and I kept up with my language skills.
Cool.
And then phase 6 is SEER school, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. So it's kind of a POW camp. You go on a mission that goes bad. They capture you. They put you in a POW camp. They torture you for a few days, no food, sort of thing. And you learn all about how to resist and then eventually escape. And it's amazing. So the whole course is incredible. I loved every second of it. I love the people that I went through the course with. And that's what it is, brother.
Yeah, I find that fascinating, the military in general, just how much they will invest in people to get what they want, the type of person they want. And in business, so often we're like, if an employee doesn't get it in the first week, we're like fed up and like, a VA can't do this in the first 2 weeks. We're like throwing up our hands, and it's like, people, it's hard to find good help. But so what was the total time for Q course? Like,
from beginning to end, it was like 2.5 years.
and that's after basic training, Rangers. I mean, West Point, not even counting West Point, but like all the other stuff that you go through on top of that.
Yeah. West Point, which was awful. I don't recommend that for anyone.
I went to North Georgia College for like 2 quarters, which is a step down from West Point. But even that, I was like, nah, this is not for me. This is not for me.
So I attend alumni dinner every year, and there's always an old grad up there that's like, West Point was the best 4 years of my life. And I'm like, it was not the best 4 years of mine, man. I'm happy to report that, because if it was, then I'd be living a really, really rough life.
Yeah.
West Point, OBC at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I was originally an artillery guy. And then I went to Ranger School, went to Korea for my first duty station, then immediately over to Iraq for the initial invasion. And then right when I got done with that, immediately to the selection and then the Q course after, immediately back to Iraq. And then a few months back at Fort Carson, back to Iraq again. So yeah, when you look at it, when you look at it, with 2020 vision, you're like, man, that was intense. That was a lot of stuff, bro. I never had a chance to take a breath or take a time out, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Sure.
I feel like life is meant to be worth living, and if you find yourself, comfortable, or if you find that life is easy, then you're not living life the right way, in my opinion.
Yeah. So what's some of the best ways that people can apply this idea of deliberate discomfort in their businesses? Whether they're marketers, they're salespeople, they're you know, trying to build a business and get clients, like what are some of your favorite principles and how can they apply? So it's kind of, I guess, the so what, now what type ideas that you talk about at Mission 60?
Yeah, Mission 60. So I think you can apply, I know you can apply them both personally and professionally. And so there isn't one set thing that I could tell you, like, this is the secret to success. This is what you have to do. Wake up at 4 morning. No, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if waking up at 4 a.m. is hard for you, do it. Waking up at 4 a.m. is not hard for me. Waking up at
Yeah.
4 a.m. is not hard for many people. It's
Yeah.
easy, especially it's easy when you go to bed at 8 p.m. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard.
Right.
So, taking cold showers is not hard for me. It's hard for a lot of people. If it's hard for you, do it. You know, and that's what we try to espouse at Mission 60. You know, going to do an ice bath. Hey, if it's hard for you, do it. But at some point, if you do it enough, you'll get comfortable with it, and it's not that hard anymore. And so what we try to preach is take that next step, put yourself back into an uncomfortable position, turn the volume up, and then get comfortable doing that. And then only then can you take that next step and keep moving forward, keep progressing, keep growing stronger, keep improvising as a human being. And so when we work with a lot of corporate clients, typically the uncomfortable thing for them is communicating. You know, people don't like to communicate,
Yeah.
or they don't know how to communicate. And usually there's a problem at some level with miscommunication, whether the boss is not articulating his mission and his vision well, or sometimes his employees just aren't listening, or they just
Yeah.
aren't, they're just not picking it up. They're not getting it. You know, and so we help a lot of our employees, both in the professional sports organizations and in corporate America, to communicate better through deliberate discomfort. And it's like a revolution. What we're trying to start is like, we're trying to inspire people to put themselves voluntarily, intentionally, deliberately in uncomfortable positions,
Yeah.
you know, so they can grow and improve and society can get better. And that's kind of the opposite of what, you know, we're teaching at society right now. We're teaching the safe space, you know,
Yeah.
safe space generation. Everybody, you know, and I think that's the gap in society. You know, everybody um, can go somewhere where, you know, you won't be bothered, and you listen. You can't learn and you can't grow if you do it that way.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that society is cultivating indignation and victimhood. We're encouraged to place ourselves in, you know, an environment where we're not exposed to criticism or opposing opinions or emotional harm. And I think that's detrimental to progress. You know, it's not how we learn and grow. We learn and grow
Yeah.
by voluntarily choosing to face our fears and not by avoiding them. Our willingness to face our fears is more powerful than fear itself, I believe. And
Absolutely.
that's what we're trying to teach.
Dude, I love that. I'm getting like 3 copies of your book, and I want like 2 of those are going to be from both of my teens to read this.
There you
This
go.
is really good. I want them to learn to, you know, get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, I don't want them, you know, I feel like sometimes, you know, as parents, especially, you know, you want your kid, so many parents want their kids to be safe and protected from all of the stuff in life. But I don't believe that. I think your kids need to feel the adversity of life sometimes, and what it's like to struggle a little bit.
That's
Um,
exactly correct. Like
so
my 9-month-old, he's learning how to walk right now. And
mhm,
there's just something built inside of us. It's something inherent that forces us, that we really yearn for deliberate discomfort. He's trying to walk and he falls down and he
yeah,
gets hurt and he falls down hard sometimes and he hits his head.
yep,
And, you know, as an adult, you would think, hey, I fell down so many times, I hit my head. I'm stopping this. I don't want to do this anymore. This is ridiculous. Why would I continue doing this? But for my son, he's like, you know what? In his mind, he's like, I'm going to continue doing this because I want to walk. I don't care
mhm,
how long is it's going to take. I can hit my head as many times and I can fall down and I can hit my butt and be uncomfortable, but I'm going to make this happen.
yeah,
And I think that's really built into all of us. And we just kind of forget that as we get older.
mhm, yeah. I see a lot of the reviews. I was reading some of the reviews on your book, and you've got Ron Rivera Chris Long from two-time Super Bowl champion, NFL. You got Rick Spielman, the NFL or GM for the Minnesota Vikings. I hear that phrase used a lot. It makes sense because I hear that phrase used a lot in football. I've heard Nick Saban kind of use that, not in the exact words, but never letting his guys. He wants them to always be uncomfortable or comfortable being
Yes,
uncomfortable on a
that's
regular
right.
basis. And I would say this resonates really well within, the NFL and organizations like that are, trying to reach the highest level.
It does. It does. I think it was Nick Saban. I read an article recently and he said, I think that exact same thing. He's like,
Yep.
I place my players in uncomfortable positions.
Mm-hmm.
That's his secret. And I'm
Yep.
like, hell yeah, man. I wish I would have interviewed you for the book, man. That would have been a good thing.
Oh, he's a joy to watch. I love watching the documentaries on him during I think it was like a few years ago where they did it was like a summer camp, and it
Yeah.
was so good watching him, just the way he puts them totally in uncomfortable situations. And he's totally, he's just, some people think he's a real jerk, but I think all of those championship rings would say otherwise.
No, you can
Yeah.
still
Maybe he
be a
is,
real
but he
jerk
gets.
and be a champ.
That's right.
It's
That's right.
funny because I think I read somewhere, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm pretty sure I read that he learned how to text for the first time, over this COVID
Yeah, exactly.
pandemic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was uncomfortable for him. Like he
Right.
just does, some people, technology is an uncomfortable thing. And if it is, push past that fear, that discomfort and embrace it,
Absolutely.
be
Yep.
bold, confront it and overcome it.
Yep.
So real quick, we're running a little bit long, but it's good
Sorry.
conversation, so we're good. If it's hard for you, do it. Like I heard you say that, and that really resonates. But I'm curious about, like, that sounds good. It's a great sound bite, that kind of stuff. I'm curious about the science behind that. So you said you do a lot of work with scientists for a lot of these things. So if it's hard for you, do it. Like, okay, like maybe it helps with self-esteem. Maybe it helps. What's the real science behind if it's hard, do it?
So we have what we call a total warrior model, and we have so we believe that if you can focus on these 6 aspects of your life, you're going to find success, right? Mental,
Mhm.
physical, spiritual, social, emotional, and professional. And each chapter of the book deals with a different component of that total warrior model. And that's where the science comes in and says mentally, right? By deliberately choosing discomfort, this is how it's going to help you. And we have a doctor, PhD, a researcher, or expert like explain that. Physically, here's how this works. Physically, I would tell you, like, when you look at the acronym EDSOC, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and cortisol. So if you look at that from that perspective, and we break down what those things do for you in your body, you can learn how to regulate that. From a professional standpoint, trusting and training mindsets is something that we talk a lot about, and how leaders are banks of trust and humans are more important than hardware, and how trust is a contract with terms. And in order to start the process of trust, you have to begin with belief, and that's kind of the science behind that. And, we could go on and on so many of these scientific applications in each chapter. But that's how we broke it down. We said, these are the components of deliberate discomfort with all these 6 domains. And we mention each domain twice. There's 12 chapters in the book. And then we say, from a scientific perspective, this is how you achieve success in those areas,
Yeah, that's cool. So obviously that's where the 6 and mission 60 comes from. Mission, I can kind of guess, that's just the overall mission. So what's 0? I'm curious on your company name. Where does the 0 come from?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. So originally our name was Mission Essential, and there was a company that changed their name to Mission Essential, and they stole my my logo and the name, and they were a government contracting company. They found interpreters, and they sent me a letter from a lawyer that said cease and desist use of all. And I was like, what the, like, I'm going to hire a lawyer too. You can't do this. And got into a legal battle for about a year.
Yeah.
And finally, my lawyer was like, Jason, listen, they're bigger than you. They have more money than you,
Oh,
a
sure.
lot more money. You're just going to keep losing money until you negotiate a buyout. And so we call ourselves now. I wanted to commission because, the mission comes first. It aligns teams with a sense of purpose and direction. Mission first, people always, And then 6, we were like, hey, we got your 6, we got your back. It kind of personifies loyalty and trust and respect and commitment. And then 6 is also, as you know, the numerical call sign or designator for the unit commander. Mm-hmm. And then 0, we're like, true north on a magnetic compass is 0. It represents a baseline. It means of measuring progress during a mission. Mm-hmm. And the whole person concept, 0 means kind of like balance and symbolizes equilibrium in all of the 6 domains. And then we took it a step further and said M60, M60 is the weapon that Green Beret John Rambo used in his movies. So
okay, cool. That's awesome.
I like it. Yeah, I love like a good company name and like all the stuff that goes into it, or a logo and all the different stuff that goes into it. Mm-hmm. Because I know that like people don't just throw that stuff together. Like there's a lot of heart and soul and all that kind of stuff. So, well,
one of the hardest things is to come up with a company name. Like you'd be surprised how difficult that
it's
is
hard
to get everybody on board with a name. Like one thing you think you love, somebody else hates it, refuses to use it. And so,
or the website's not available. Like the domain's not available. That's the hard part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Figuring out those workarounds. Yeah.
So Jason, we've talked about your book. We've kind of dipped in and out of your company, but so if you could give people kind of well, first let me say, Jonathan, is there any other stuff you wanted to ask?
No, just where can people find the book? But I think you were kind of hinting on that.
Yeah. So tell us about both the company and the book. Anything you want to say, any last words of wisdom you want to put out? Like I know you don't have the one secret, you've got multiple, but like just, this is your time, Jason, to kind of tell us about why they should learn more about Mission 60, deliberate discomfort, all that stuff.
Oh, I love it, man. So bottom line is adapt or die. COVID-19 is the epitome of deliberate discomfort. I mean, we are living it right now. And, I believe that in order to be the best, you have to learn from the best. And the team that I've compiled is, astounding. Some of the best leaders you'll ever meet, some of the best Americans you'll ever meet as well. And I feel like if you are interested in learning more, you can buy a copy of Deliberate Discomfort on Amazon. Clearly, they're very slow in shipping. I would recommend that you go to our partner, veteran-owned and operated 9 Line Apparel, a fantastic company, and you can get a copy of Deliberate Discomfort there with a limited edition T-shirt in a bundle, and that's a great way to go. Moving forward.
Say that again. What's that?
Yeah. What's that
again? Website again?
Oh, sorry. It's veteran-owned and operated 9 Line Apparel.
Okay. Is that spelled N-I-N-E? Line?
That's right. NINELINEAPPAREL.
Cool.
They're great. They're in Georgia. Fantastic company. Make great shirts, apparel, the whole thing.
Awesome.
Very popular company, and we partner with them to do this bundle package.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Like I said earlier, I think we were off air at the time, but this mission60.com is where you can find more information about my company, or you can go to warriorrising.org to help veterans start their own businesses. You can donate, you can volunteer to be a mentor, you could, volunteer to be a platoon leader, or a number of other things, peer-to-peer fundraising, so many things you could help us out with there. But back to Mission 60, you know, you can go to the website, and what we offer is keynote presentations, workshops, and custom programs. It's all live in-person stuff. And with COVID-19, all of our contracts are canceled or postponed at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's tough for us. So we are deliberately embracing discomfort right now. And we're saying, listen, let's adapt, improvise, and overcome. Let's create online training. And so we're taking our curriculum and we're creating a 12-week masterclass. And we'll have that out probably in mid-May. So for anyone that's interested in learning more about that, we're also doubling down on our marketing efforts. And so in May, you're going to see a lot more from Mission 60 on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I usually thrive on LinkedIn personally. So you can hit me up at Jason Van Camp on LinkedIn. I post videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually. And so
Cool.
if you want to learn more about me and the company, that's where you go for that. And so Jonathan,
Also,
Sean,
real
that's
quick,
all
what
I'll tell
about
you, man?
what about mention Warrior Rising real quick? How can people find out more about that? I know that's pretty dear to your heart. You know, you're helping veterans and their family members by, you know, helping them with opportunities, create, you know, businesses and things like that. So where can people find out more information about that?
Labor of Love, you know, you can go to warriorrising.org,
Okay.
O-R-G, and it's a fairly new website. It's only been up for a couple months, so you get all the information. We've got great videos. We've got highlights of veterans that we've helped and we serve, you know, up-to-date information and so forth. So that's all great stuff. You can go there, learn all you can about Warrior Rising,
Cool.
and that's the best way to get that information.
Awesome.
That's very cool. Well, Jason, we have kind of a thing on the show that when we're out of beer, like the show's over. So I'm down to one swig. I don't know where you are in your water. Jonathan's already done. So
I'm about 1/3 in. That's awesome. Cheers.
And it's been a pleasure having you on. I appreciate you sharing some of the stories from your book. And like I said, I'm definitely getting some copies for my teenagers. I want them. This is going to be, especially now that they're not in school right now. They've got some reading projects ahead, so they'll be reading this. This will be on the assignment list for sure.
Hell yeah. And please let me know when you do that. If there's anything I can do to help you out with that, I'm there for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I found a link to the t-shirt book bundle, so we'll put that on our Persuasion by the Pint episode page as well. Pretty cool shirt, right up your alley there, Jonathan.
Awesome.
Got the flag on the shoulder and everything.
I like the grunt style. I wear a lot of those grunt style. So
yeah, grunt style, 9-line Ranger up. Those guys are all awesome. Fantastic guys.
Yeah, cool. Good stuff. So, all right. Well, Jonathan, I'll let you take us out.
Yep. Jason, it's been fun, man. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll probably, we'll be posting this on Monday and I'll send it over and definitely make sure that you're able to see it. And we'll be posting it and sending it out on our social media channels. So thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
Have a good one. We'll see you. Yep.
See you guys.
Bye. Awesome.
All right,
man.
You can kill the YouTube.
Yeah. I'll kill the live here.
Oh, he left. I was hoping he'd just stick around a little bit.